Welcome to another movie review. I'm going to review the 2008 movie Gran Torino. And listen to this. What other figure in the history of the cinema has been an actor for 53 years? In fact, you can add on another 18 to that. 21 years. Sorry, 71 years. Math's not too clever. A director for 55 years. Has won 2 Oscars for directions, 2 more for Best Picture, plus the Talbot Parade, and at 91 can direct himself in his own film and look meaner than hell, although he was 78 when this came out. None. That's how many, except one. And we're talking about the legendary American actor and director Clint Eastwood. In this movie, he plays Walt Kowalski, lead role. Bivang plays Tao, and Ni here plays Sue. These are 2 young Korean neighbours. Father Janovich is played by Christopher Carley. Mitch Kowalski plays Brian Haley. Karen Kowalski plays Geraldine Hughes. Steve Kowalski is played by Brian Howe. Ashley Kowalski, Dreamer Walker. And finally, Trey is played by the director's son, Scott Eastwood. So, what of this movie? Well, the movie opens and closes with 2 religious Catholic ceremonies. Funerals, reflecting on the life of 2 losses in the community. The opener, we meet Walt Kowalski and his family. Walt's wife has passed on, and the first 10 minutes we hear Walt's views, not particularly positive ones. He's scathing of a granddaughter who he sees to be just a consumer. He's very aloof with his son and his daughter. Waltz, well, he's a Korean War veteran. He's retired now. He was a Detroit auto worker, and he presents as a bitter, objectionable, argumentative cynic who resents families smothering him with interest at this time in his life following the death of his wife. He's also not that impressed by the increased attention given by the young local Catholic priest who's been asked to keep a close eye on Walt following his wife's death. Walt's having none of it. He's a very independent-minded man, resents the increased attention, and he's quick to illustrate his views on foreigners. Most of his opinions have stemmed from that stretch in the US Army in the Korean War in the 50s. Shortly after, new neighbours arrive. They're clearly Asian, and it stokes up his racism, and he's quick to describe them as gooks, typical of army talk about that part of the world. He tends to put Asians all in the same bag, and even when he's made aware that the neighbours are in fact Huan, a tribal peoples that live near northern Thailand and southern China, he still thinks of them as Koreans. He's a bigot for sure. But things change when he meets the young lad Tao, who's about 16 years of age, and his older sister Sue, who's a couple of years older. Walt encounters the boy Tao after an Asian teenage group target him to try and rob Walt by checking out the garage for things of value to sell. And Walt's a sly old dude and catches him in the act. Walt's very condemning, naturally, and the family feel enormous shame and want to make amends. They offer gifts, food, an apology, and they want to recompense Walt. Walt's very reluctant to get involved in any sort of social aspect with them, but the young girl Sue acts as a go-between. Her English is very, very good, as is Tao's. Walt becomes less hostile to Tao and accepts the offer by the family for Tao to give his labour for free for a period of time. So, having accepted that offer, the bond between Walt and the boy develops. He also accepts an invitation to a party with the family, a cultural event, and this adds to his mellowness, and the relationship with the girl Sue also becomes one of friendship. Our perception of Walt changes. He isn't as bigoted and racist as one first thought. Also, he's prepared to stand up for the weak and reserves his worst behaviour for the gangs that terrorise the neighbourhood. A telling scene is when Walt, out driving, witnesses an incident across the road where the young girl Sue seems to be caught up in some problem with an Afro-American gang. Walt intervenes and rescues the girl with a certain amount of aplomb. Later, Walt shows his protective nature when the boy Tao is roughed up by the group, returning from a job that Walt has given him. Walt's response: tracks them down and humiliates them. And this starts a tit-for-tat sort of war, gang violence, etc. And the gang attack the family of the Korean through their house, and this really shakes the two youngsters. Then leads to a final showdown, and Walt, drawing on his military training, slowly prepares his response. And you have to watch the movie to see it, although it's a pretty predictable ending, really. The early part of the movie I warmed to. It's very much Eastwood is the tough guy, the Harry Callahan figure, and even at the ripe old age of 80 plus, or whatever he still is, he commands this screen perception. Quite ironic, really. However, it is relationship with the boy Tao where he becomes a bit of a father figure, and it's the highlight, really. He becomes a teacher to the young boy, and there's a fantastic scene midway through when he takes the boy along to his barber, who's also a close friend of Walt's, and we witness the two men giving a sort of lesson on how to be a man, using the type of American slang that's commonplace. Tao speaks English, but he's culturally naive to the American way, and it's a very amusing scene. Secondly, I think the film gives a message that even older age groups can change their views. Walt, throughout the film, mellows considerably, and his prejudices to an extent are reversed, and his genuineness comes through. Those rigid beliefs soften, and he learns to accept different groups from other parts of the world. Gran Torino, well, it's an immaculate classic car that's parked in Walt's garage, which he meticulously keeps clean and tidy, and he put it together himself whilst he worked at the auto company. And you'll have to catch the end to complete the puzzle of the tale. It's a tremendous film, I felt, although a bit predictable in places. It really brings out the best in Eastwood, and the supporting young cast are also exceptional. So there we have it then. My review of Gran Torino, released in 2008, directed and starring Clint Eastwood.